Well, we interrupt this regularly scheduled video to bring you a ringer. Last evening after we got done zeroing the rifle and Betsy sat and shot it, was hitting a 200-yard gong regularly and even did pretty well at 300. She was about 5 to 6 inches low and a little bit right. From a seated position, that's darn good, but she just didn't like the scope. Couldn't see very well through it. And that's an important point for all of us to remember, is that not everyone sees through a scope the same. One person thinks scope A is absolutely the best. It just really works well with their eyesight, and others don't see it that way. And Betsy was just having trouble with that scope. She likes a lot of magnification, and she likes an illuminated reticle. And it made it a little bit tough for me because I don't have too many scopes like that, but I found this tract. This is that Toric Ultra HD that we've done a video on recently. You can find that on ronspomeroutdoors.com or rsotv.com. And it has the illuminated reticle. It has all kinds of bells and whistles. You can dial it for a range if you want. It's got a ballistic reticle inside. Pretty much has everything, and Betsy thinks it's nice, bright, sharp, works well with her eyes. So even though it's a big, heavy scope and I had to mount it awfully high on the rifle because I just didn't have the rings that were low enough, we're going to squeak by with it. But you might be asking, why is someone the evening before the opening of the deer season changing scopes? Well, because we do have time to make this work. So what we're going to do now is zero the darn thing. I've already been working on bore sighting, and as you probably know, you remove the bolt, you look down the bore at the target, you line it up in the center like a peep sight, then you look at your scope and see if they're anywhere close to one another. And this one looks pretty close. Looks like I'm going to be a little bit right and a little bit low, perhaps. Close enough to get me on paper. We've taped up yesterday's targets, so all the holes are taped up, so when we hit one, we're going to know. And I even brought out a spotting scope. Can you imagine? I won't have to run down there. I'm going to get fat after this one. And I'm going to cover my ears properly this time. That little foamy plug I was using yesterday just wasn't cutting it. So let's see what we can do here with shot number one. Hope we can get on paper. Just the opposite of where I thought I was going to go. What happened to my spotter? Move over, Clarence. Yep. So I'm only 1 3/4, 2 inches high. That's good, that's what we want, but I'm way to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. So let's come right. That should about do it. I'm gonna elevate just a smidgen. Let's go up 1, 2. That should just about give us what we want. Now you noticed I used MOAs to dial rather than dialing to the bullet hole. Two options, they both work. At 100 yards, it's easy. You just count your MOAs and you should be there. Looks like it's straight up. Yes, indeed. I'm about 1/4 inch to the left and I'm up 1, 2 inches. Bingo. Just that quickly, we've got a new scope zeroed and set for our target distance, 2 inches high. Now this particular load, this Barnes Vortex 120 grain factory load, was grouping 4 shots yesterday, grouped just about 1 inch, 1.25 inches. So that suggests that this is what this ammo will do in this rifle, which is not bad at all for a deer hunting load up to 300, 400 yards. Betsy's not likely to shoot 300, let alone 4, but maybe. She certainly has the scope to do it. We'll do a little bit of practicing with her again, sitting on the ground and using her sticks. And I might even put a bipod on it for her. I'm not sure. Where we're going to be hunting, it's grassy enough and brushy enough that I don't think a prone bipod is going to work. We'll probably be sitting on a hillside and using the sticks. So we'll practice some more with that, but other than that, I think we are about ready to roll. Here is Betsy taking a couple of shots off the bench just to confirm the zero for her. There's one. There we go. Can you see it through your scope? Right beside mine. So you're 2.5 inches high on one shot, 2 inches high on your second shot. One is a 1/2 inch to the left, the other is a 1/2 inch to the right, or 3/4 of an inch to the right. You've got a deer every time. I think you're ready to do some field position shooting. Here's Betsy shooting from a sitting position with the leg of the bench, giving her good back support. There you go. 1/2 inch above the bullseye. So you had no lateral movement that time, but you were a little low on your ups and downies. But obviously those 2 shots would have gotten your animal. Now let's go for 200-yard gong shots. .300-yard target, way out there. Shot over it. Shoot, shot high again. What's going on? Well, I'm out at the 300-yard target. It's the following day. I just had to come out here and see what the videos were showing. Those bullets Betsy was shooting were arcing right in here. Now, all the holes on the target belong to her, except for this one. I shot my 25-06 just to confirm, and that's right where it should be. Pulled it a little bit right. Might have had a little bit of cross breeze. But notice Betsy's are pretty much one in the center, another one low in the center, another one pretty close to the center, but a couple of them out. What I noticed on the video is that she is using the second joint of her finger almost to pull. If you don't use the first pad on your finger, it's easy for that crook to pull the rifle when you break the trigger. So beware of that. She's now been clued in and will be working on that. First pad of the finger, straight back. That eliminates that side-to-side motion. So as far as her drops, the first evening with the Burris scope on, I had her aiming up here, figuring it would drop about 6 to 8 inches into this area. She was aiming up here and they were falling here. Yesterday I had her aim 3 inches above the bull, about right here, and they were falling in here, and she was having that better trigger control. So 7 to 8 inches of drop are what the ballistics calculator says should be happening. That's her trajectory. She got her trigger finger working better now. She's got her drops figured out. This rifle is shooting beautifully, and she is ready to roll. Now, why would anyone put a new scope on a rifle the day before the deer season and the evening before? I mean, that was late afternoon when we did that. Well, a couple of reasons. The main one is Betsy has had eye surgery and she does not see all that well out of her right eye. And she was having trouble with that particular scope. She likes a lot of magnification so she can see better, and she loves an illuminated reticle. That's why I put the Burris scope on her, but I had this track scope with 15 power on it, and it's got a little bit better visual imagery for Betsy's eyes. Both of them look great to me, but she can see better through this tracked scope. So that's why I mounted it. Now, admittedly, I mount a lot of scopes and I've been through it many times so I can get the job done fairly quickly. I would not recommend that you do this the evening before the opener of the deer season, but if you or any of your friends are really having difficulty with the scope setup that they have and you've got a better scope, why not mount it? Put it on there. But try to do it several days before the season opens so you get it right and have time to make up for any little errors you might have. But as you saw in that video, we went from raw scope, bore sighting, on the target, pretty much zeroed, and then a few practice shots to confirm, and we're good to go. Now, one more thing you might ask about is the uphill angle. Many people comment on that. On my range, I have to shoot uphill because this hill is pretty much everything we've got here. It's either up or down. There's not too much horizontal. Don't freak out. Yes, shooting at a steeper angle, either up or down, doesn't matter, means your shots are going to go a little bit higher. But the angle has to be significant. And this is not a significant angle. I am looking at perhaps 8 degrees. I'll give it 10 at the most. And a 10-degree angle at 300 yards just isn't going to amount to much. You can run those ballistic tables if you want to really be persnickety about it, but don't freak out. It's usually not until around 25-degree angle and beyond 200 yards that you really start to see some significant changes in your predicted trajectories. And as we can see here, it's predicting 7 to 8 inches of drop, and that's pretty much what we're getting with that 260 and 120 tipped triple shock bullet from Barnes. So Betsy is ready to go deer hunting. I hope the deer are.